Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Best Darn Everything, our bi-weekly spin-off of the Simpsons show that we do that I still don't have a confirmed intro for. We just wing it on a weekly. This is where we take a break from talking about the Simpsons to talk about literally anything else that we're excited to talk about. And after this past Thanksgiving, which was 2 days ago as we record this, 3 days ago as we record this, Richie and myself just saw the movie Ghostbusters Afterlife. And then, of course, anytime we're going to talk Ghostbusters, somebody's like, who are you going to call? We're like Toby. So our good friend Toby is back as well. We're going to introduce all of them. First and foremost, welcome back, of course, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I find it inappropriate that we have Toby on a podcast about a movie in which a character based off Toby was in. So I don't know how I feel about this one. That character podcast was clearly based on Toby.
Oh, hell yeah.
You even had the same exact kind of podcast.
It's a Toby origin story, really, more than
That's
anything.
right. That's right.
Good. But I'm doing just fine, man. I thought we were doing a show about Hitmonkey today. That's what I was talking about. No, I'm just kidding. I am looking forward to see what you guys have to say about this, because you guys are a little bit more Ghostbuster nerdy than I am, I believe, very easily so. But I definitely have some stuff to talk about from early childhood with the Ghostbusters. But we'll get into that as we go. Let me go ahead and throw it back to you. If one of us can at least talk for one full sentence today. The man, the myth, the muncher. It is Miles.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to be able to complete full sentences to have a podcast. And proving that point, a man who can't do that and has multiple podcasts.
You're not wrong.
Welcome back to the show. One of our very favorite guests, Kobe. Always a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I'm actually very excited that you asked me to be on this one, because Ghostbusters is, very near and dear to my heart and has always been growing up. So I'm excited to talk all things Ghostbusters and just drool all over that new movie. Oh, baby.
That's not ectoplasm, folks. No, I'm with you on the new movie. Honestly, I really liked it a lot. Just we'll start with that. Richie and I both saw it on Thursday. I think you saw it before that, right, Toby?
No, I saw it on Saturday.
Oh.
I think. Yeah, Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, so it's all fresh on our viewing palates. Yeah. Just a really solid film. Definitely a more in the style, if you will, of the original, the films, than whatever that was that happened in 2016 that was an SNL skit gone wrong. But yeah, this
You're saying it was like a Melissa McCarthy movie?
Pretty much,
sorry.
honestly. Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, it's completely fair. This one just felt a lot more right. And also, I'm going to say now, before it ruins the whole podcast, I'm getting a super bad echo from one of you. I don't know if it's playing too loud or anything, but
That's right. Yeah, I hear it too.
If it's playing over the loudspeaker, we let's keep it in the headphones, lest everybody will hear me talking twice. And God forbid, no one wants that.
That.
Perfect.
Miles, I would like to start this off with a review of the new movie.
Perfect. Would you say it's a movie and a half shell, if you will?
No, well, maybe if it were 5 years ago. No. I want to read Sir Toby Von Doom's Facebook account right now.
Oh,
didn't
perfect.
like Ghostbusters Afterlife. You're wrong. I only cried a little, which both Miles and I like. But I just wanted to make sure we threw Toby's official review out there from his own Facebook handle there.
Well, you know what? I was seeing a couple of people say, "No, it's too fan servicey." Which
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, go, please.
What does that mean? What does that fucking mean?
Are you going to see Ghostbusters when you're not a fan of Ghostbusters?
Yes.
And who the hell doesn't like being serviced? Honestly, that.
I want to be serviced all the time.
Seriously, yeah. It doesn't make any sense that that's a complaint that I've heard by multiple people. Oh, it's too fan servicey. Fuck you, dude.
What does that mean though? I just don't know what that means. And every time, so that's why I was like, if you don't like it, you're wrong, because there was so many just good little nuggets, little like jabs. One of my favorite things, I'm jumping into it. I'm sorry.
No, do it.
One of my favorite things is there's such a subtle joke with no words, and it's a callback, no words. When they first find Egon's little lab underneath the barn or wherever it's at, they cut the video, like the film cuts to just the fungus collection. And because when what's their secretary's name? Janice? Jeanette?
Oh my god! Wow, you're making me feel bad.
I'm blanking on it.
I know.
But anyway,
she had the cameo in the movie.
Janine.
Yeah.
Janine.
There we go. So in one of the movies, she goes, "So what do you do for fun?" And he goes, "I collect funguses and spores," or whatever he says. And I think it's the first movie. And she's like, "Ow!" And they had that was there. That was like it was there. They didn't make any joke or say like, "What's this?" Like it was just.
I love that. I didn't catch that, and I'm so glad you pointed that out. That's such a brilliant little lovely touch.
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel too servicey at all.
No, because if they would have been like, "What is this?" Like it still would have been funny, but how they did it was so subtle. And there's a lot of those little subtle things, just like the music all the way through has that Ghostbusters music. And it's everything about it. Loved it. Now we're not spoiling anything.
Oh, we're going to spoil. We're going to absolutely spoil.
Oh.
So this is your official spoiler warning. If you have not seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, spoilers are around the corner.
Okay. I was just making sure because I wasn't going to say what got me, but even the 12-year-old, my kid, after we watched the movie, he goes, "Did you almost cry during the scene?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Me too." And he doesn't have a connection like I do. So I thought that was really that's heartfelt. If a 12-year-old kid that doesn't have 32 years of watching these movies, and cartoons and video games and whatever else, I thought that was really cool. Anyways, I'll shut up now.
No, I think that's beautiful, man. I am glad that you brought that up because the scene that you're talking about, we are going to, again, spoiler alert if you haven't got it already, but before the movie started, one of the things that I was talking with a few people about was just the fact that I really wanted them to use like the ghost of Harold Ramis. And a lot of people are like, no, that's a terrible idea. That always goes poorly. Look at Star Wars, they're gone, let it be. But if ever there was a franchise in which to use that technology to bring back an actor, this is that franchise. It makes so much 100%. Sense. It fits perfectly with the narrative of the story. And it was a really sweet moment, honestly.
Even though he should have been sucked into the giant 100 traps,
yes,
like all the other ghosts did.
I was gonna save that for a little while. Way to just piss all over our beautiful moment, Richie. But I will say,
I teared up too.
I was absolutely sad that he's like, why is this the one ghost that doesn't get sucked into the trap? Did they make it Egon proof?
But yeah,
he flew away and then he came back. Shut up, Richie.
He flew away into that trap.
He knew that one day he would be a ghost, so he invented something out of his fungus to like keep him grounded to the earth if that ever happened.
I mean, that's why they call him a fun guy.
Nice. Right off the bat, though, they had the ghost action kind of happen where you don't actually see anything but the movement of the ghost, much like any other horror movie where a ghost is featured. And honestly, even early on with like the chessboard and whatnot, it almost had like that vibe of like it could have been Grandpa, or it could have been like a malevolent spirit trying to trick them. And like one thing that really bothered Richie and I is like, I get that if it was Egon, he'd want to show show her, his granddaughter, like all the cool sciencey stuff. But why would you show them where the trap that had the like super powerful ghost that you risked your life to the trap to like secure years ago or whatever it was?
Well, I think it was still, it still has to do with the fact that he abandoned his family because he knew that this was going to happen. And the whole point was like, it still needs to be avoided. And like, this isn't going to stop until it's over. kind of thing. So I
so
feel
you almost
like
had to bring him back into
You had
it.
to have all
Because
the
they-
pieces to re-trap it in another trap. I don't know.
well, that the trapping the one dog thing was to lure Gozer and the other dog to these traps, like to the main trap, because they show the part where he's got the
Holding it up.
the buster guns pointed at that hole in the ground, and like they're on a timer, so when they start trying to rise out of it, like that's what's causing the earthquake. So like it wasn't gonna stop. I mean, he passed away, and they were still trying to get out of that hole. Eventually, those proton packs were gonna, break or not work, and then they would escape anyway. So, I mean, I feel like it makes sense. Like, hey, I'm trying to show you this, so you can know. But yeah, it is weird that he went straight to that rather than like, here's the plans, like because he had the whole thing with the lamp, which I thought was pretty cute.
Yeah, honestly, that
controlling
was
the
like
lamp.
spotlighting where like she needed to look.
Yeah,
or,
you would
or
think.
to steal a moment from The Simpsons with the daughter. Yeah, totally. I also leaned to Miles and went, "Do it for her." And then,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was before she even got down in the basement.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a odd plot hole of like, why did you show her where the trap was first rather than show her what the plan was first and what's going on first?
Yeah,
Because you gave her the puzzle
that
pieces in
seems
the
really
wrong order.
dangerous. It's like that's like you give a child a loaded gun, like because you're going to take them hunting one day, but like before you teach them about any of the safety and or
Right.
like protocol when using a weapon.
Right. Yeah.
Just like handle this for a few years, and eventually you're going to know why you need it.
And the other one of the other complaints I did have about the movie was, why did they try to open the trap? Why did Paul Rudd and the two kids try to open the trap? I mean, they made it clear it was an actual trap. They saw the little like spirit try to come out just a little bit when they're in the classroom. They're like, "Hey, I got a great idea. Let's open it up."
I mean, obviously, Paul Rudd's character makes that pretty clear. It's for science, Richie. For science.
That's like such a cop out line for that one.
Yeah, no, there are, as much as I love the movie, there are a couple of complaints, and as much
Yeah.
as I love Paul Rudd, they all at least in some manner involve Paul Rudd. I don't think he's to blame for my biggest complaint, but he again is involved in it, and we'll definitely get to that. Before we get to the bad, though, we've been talking a lot about how terrible the fan service is and whatnot, but one of the things I think that needs to be pointed out is how incredible the acting is by a lot of the cast. But I think, at least for Richie and myself, we both, after the movie, talked about how the main character, which was it Phoebe? What was her name? I'm
Phoebe,
blanking
yeah.
on. Yeah, Phoebe was like the main granddaughter of Egon, essentially. She's played by McKenna Grace, who I just learned was born in 2006, just around the corner
Jeez.
from here in Grapevine, Texas.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
so a local to all three of us, really. But yeah, very young actress, but very talented, pulling off like both a serious tone, but also a believable kid. Very much a Lisa Simpson type role, honestly. But also with some delivery of some jokes that were very good. Dad jokes galore, which of course makes Richie happy.
I kept whispering the answers to Miles before she would give them out. I very much found myself being simpatico with Phoebe in this movie.
Yeah, she was
So-
great.
The one thing that I loved about these kids was they all I think it was on purpose, but they all have personalities of the original Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
She's got the Egon.
Egon.
The podcast is definitely Ray. The older brother is Peter, and then the girlfriend is Winston for sure. Like it's just because Winston gets added to the team later, she gets added to the team later.
Toby, was that
Ray-
because there's another similarity between Winston and her?
Come on now. Hey, that's another thing. I love the diversity. Like I'm glad first off, all the kid actors are awesome. Like they are great.
That podcast kid was great.
He was so funny. He was so
Mhm.
funny, but
He
had
had
like
such great lines.
yeah. So a lot of it okay, my problem with the 2016 movie was like it was I mean, besides they tried so hard to make it funny, it was like, oh well, it was all guys before, now it's all ladies. Like
It was overcompensation, just like it had the main focus of that movie is we're doing it with women. Like that's the only thing that really mattered. And then like everything else was a second thought. And
tried
honestly,
to fit the Ghostbusters around that instead of trying to fit them around the Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I always thought like an Extreme Ghostbusters. I don't know if you're familiar with the Extreme Ghostbusters cartoon.
Vaguely. I didn't watch that one nearly as much as like the real Ghostbusters.
Well, see, and they had a very diverse cast for that show as well. One of the kids is in a wheelchair in that show, which I always thought was really cool. Even as a kid, you know, like, what's that?
Was he the smart one?
I think, man, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I watched.
I've never watched it. I'm trying to go down the path where like, well, because he has to be that because that's how a lot of that.
They do have like the certain personalities and stuff, but I thought that was great. It's more like the Extreme Ghostbusters. I'm going to say this now. I hope this was the official torch being passed on, and I hope it's like 5, 6, 7 years. Let these kids grow up a little bit, but then we get a movie from that same cast if possible.
I don't think it's going to be that long. I think there's a very good chance we're going to get another movie with them in it, but I don't think it's going to be that long. I think it's going to be very quick. I think they see gold in them hills.
Right. Yeah.
But if they keep treating it with respect, I'm good with it. And for me, the biggest difference more than anything, I made that SNL jab earlier, but that was legitimately my criticism at the time, and I stand by it. At no point did the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot feel like there was ever a script. It felt like it was an SNL sketch or an SNL movie, like something like The Ladies' Man or just any of those old ones that they would do like back in the like 90s. Like It's Pat, like they would turn those sketch ideas into a 90-minute movie. Night at the Roxbury, which admittedly I even like that movie, but it's my point being it feels a lot more like improv than it does well written. This had a script, it had a heart, it felt like it was connected to the original story in a believable but also new way. It like acknowledged the fact that technology has evolved. It didn't have a CGI ghost get kicked in the nuts at any point. Like that's my one complaint actually. But there's just so much to love more about this movie than the 2016 film. The diversity felt natural. Sorry, that's my last.
Yeah. So there was one thing I heard someone else say, and I'm going to steal it, and I wish I could give them credit because
fuck them. They're not important. It's your idea.
Their point was the original Ghostbuster movies weren't comedies. They just had very talented, funny people in them. Mm-hmm. The 2016 movie was a comedy, 100% slapstick comedy. This movie wasn't a comedy. It had funny elements in it, but it wasn't just a, like slap your knee, ha ha ha, laughing movie all the way through it.
They weren't trying to come up with jokes per minute at any point.
Yeah, the 2016 one feels like a parody of Ghostbusters. Like it's almost like the Scary Movie or Not Another Teen Movie. Like it almost was borderline into that kind of slapstick comedy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And
though there was,
we don't need to get too far into the 2016 one because we already did that one time with a whole. I don't want to retread old wounds here for Miles, but like I like what Toby said about this one kind of treating it with respect, and I feel like they could have walked a dangerous line having somebody like Paul Rudd in the movie. But something I told Miles was like they're advertising the movie with Paul Rudd. He's like at the center point of all the posters, but the kids were very clearly the main characters in this movie, and Paul Rudd was just a side character. He had his scenes, but he wasn't that important to the movie overall. Like he really wasn't. And I think that was actually a very smart choice. Let these kids, like you said, take the mantle, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll be basically like the receptionist in the next movie that is also super smart about seismic activity. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he can still be involved. Yeah, but he doesn't have to take the lead.
He didn't steal focus in this new movie, which I was worried was going to happen with him. Maybe a little Paul Rudd fatigue in the movie, if you will, but they used him very wisely.
I agree for the most part.
With the exception of one scene.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. Though, while we're still on the comedy side of things, I do have to bring up one scene with Paul Rudd that I thought was absolutely brilliant. It's when he's at the grocery store and the marshmallow Stay Puft guys come to life. I know that doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense, but like, I'm with it. I'm for it. I loved it. And as Richie pointed out, also, it was morbid as hell. Like disturbing in so many ways.
So, although I found the entire grocery store scene really hilarious, it was funny. I didn't like it because in the original Ghostbusters, the whole reason for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is Ray. I can't. It's been so long since I've actually watched.
That's like what he was thinking about, and it was they were using their own mind to bring out like, and he's like, I can't stop thinking about the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Right. So
that's why I said it didn't make sense, but I was giving it a pass.
This is a personal vendetta against the Ghostbusters in the new one, though. Like, they have familiarity with the spirit, so maybe that was why they were Stay Puft Mini Marshmallow Men.
I don't know. I thought it was funny. I thought they were cute. The kid loved that entire whole sequence.
That's what it's about right there.
That is, and that's why I'm fine with it. Plus, I thought the scene with the Gozer dog eating the dog food and then looking up at him, like that whole scene is super funny. See,
there's so much good in that in that whole sequence. But on that same, like right in the end of that like chain of events, I guess the scene that drove me the most crazy, that was also a Paul Rudd scene, was when the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper first met up. And
are we talking about the original movie?
No. In this,
I'm just kidding.
Nice. No, in this Afterlife one, when Paul Rudd's character and the mom character, who are now possessed, it's just like they're trying to do this like comical voice thing where they kind of like talk to each other in this like this demonic voice, but it just doesn't sound right. They're going for laughs, and it doesn't make me laugh. It felt just wrong. Like they should have just stuck to the "Are you the gatekeeper? Are you the keymaster?" Boom, they can get it on type of thing. I just really dislike that one scene with Paul Rudd.
I thought you didn't like it because they got it on, and you felt like they just didn't need to show that. Like from when you were talking after the movie, I thought that's what you meant, not because.
No, not at all. If anything, I would. Are you kidding me? Another chance to see like the sexiest man of the year, like partially nude. Like I'm all for it, but no, the part that bothered me was their dialogue. It was like written to be. They were like trying to make it like a joke. They tried to have like a comedic moment there. And I felt like that was the one place in the movie that they tried to force the joke, and it felt wrong. Like whereas when I guess they were forcing the joke with the Stay Puft scene too, but in a physical comedy sort of way that kind of worked in my opinion. This just felt like they were trying to they're like, we didn't get any laughs in a while. We better throw something in. And it just didn't feel necessary. I think they could have moved on without it.
I think so too, because that's kind of a serious moment in the movie where like, oh shit,
it's the apocalypse, dude. Yeah. It's a big deal.
We don't need a funny haha moment.
No, that's the Shakespearean formula. You got to break the tension every few scenes with a quick little comedy bit. It's tried and true for hundreds of years.
So for years and years, like when my kids would come up to me, well, because I'm stepdad basically. They say Toby. They're like, "Hey, Toby, I need this, I need that." So my response for years and years has always been, "There is no Toby. There is only Zool." So when she whispered it, I grabbed my seat. I just started laughing like that, and Gibson goes, "What?" And then she said it louder, and he goes, "Oh." So I really popped hard for her whispering it and then saying it again. He knew it was from Ghostbusters, but he didn't hear it the first time because she whispers it. Yes,
that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. And again, so much of that was great, but yeah, we have talked a lot about the movie, and we might still come back to it, but Ghostbusters itself is a franchise. Toby, it sounds like even more so to you, big part of your childhood and even adulthood. Definitely a big part of my childhood. Not something that I held on to as long as like the Ninja Turtles, which I'm still obsessed with, but definitely a franchise that I have a lot of love for. The show back in the day, there's been multiple cartoons at this point. There's been video games, some good, some not so good. Have you guys reviewed any on your podcast over there? Have you done the Ghostbuster games?
honestly, we did review the Sega Genesis version of Ghostbusters last month. Well, in October. We're almost out of November now. In October, we reviewed the Ghostbusters for Sega. And honestly, it slipped my mind that we were about to get a new Ghostbusters movie. It just kind of worked out that way. But we were doing it, we during October, we try to make our episodes have like Ghost or Frankenstein of some sort, vampires. So that's,
you understand how marketing works. I get it. Yeah, we should probably consider doing something like that too. But we think about it as like we're like past it. Like, oh yeah, we should have done that.
Right. But no. So I will say, like, video game wise, the Nintendo one, like the NES, the original NES one, awful,
trash.
And the Sega Master System version, I don't know how to play them, to be honest. Like, it's one of those games where you're just like, what am I doing? I don't understand.
I would highly recommend, if you're interested in playing through, like, if you're like, I wonder what that's like. I wonder if I could figure it out. I would say before you try to play the NES version or any old school version of the Ghostbusters game, just watch the Angry Video Game review them. Angry Video Game Nerd review them first. Yes. He's going to sum it up much better than we could, with better swearing than we're capable of too.
Now, I will say that Sega Genesis one, it's a platformer, and it's got some like really unique like artwork for it. It's like the characters have big heads and kind of smaller bodies, and it's kind of hard, but it's really fun. It's kind of
that's good though. I mean, honestly, the whole point is to be fun. Challenging can be hard, can be a good thing as long as it's done well.
And honestly, that game could have been a sequel.
No, I was money.
That game could have like taken up space as a sequel for, or just one of the small adventures they go on, in between movies or something. Now, there was a Ghostbusters game that came out 2013, 2014. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. Yep.
And Wii, but there's an asterisk on that one that we're going to talk about. Yes, I'm glad you brought it up.
That game is a sequel. Like, if you were needing a sequel, all the voice actors, all the characters, Bill Murray and the cast are all there. Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, they're all there to repraise their roles and stuff. And I didn't get to finish that game. It's a long story, but I got really deep into it, and I loved every second of it. My PlayStation died on me, and I was like, I'm never playing this game, because I'm, the frustration of losing your entire saves game, and you're
that game, because it is such a story themed like game, it can be frustrating trying to go back through that when you're like, you just want the ending. You don't want to have to play through the first several levels. I'm glad you brought that game up, because that game, as you mentioned, came out back on the PS3. Was it PS2 actually and PS3? Like, did that have both? I know for sure PS3 and the Wii. And the reason I know that is because at the time that it came out, I only had the Wii. And so I got that version of it, which was just not good at all. It was at the time it must have been at a time when they weren't making it on PS2, because usually what they would do is the Wii would get the PS2 version, but if it was a PS3 game, they would actually have to make a different Wii version, because the Wii just couldn't keep up with it. So what the PS3 and Xbox 360 at the time got was this love letter, like literally written from the script of the never made third movie. By the original guys, as you said. And then you had this like cartoony, really lame Wii version that was just trash. But good ending on that for me, because I did eventually get to play the Ghostbusters game, the good version of it, because they actually released it on the Switch like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's a fantastic version of it. Really cool to be able to play it on the go if you want to. It works, works well, and I never played the PS3, so I can't directly compare the two. But for a Switch upgrade or whatever you want to call it, it worked really well, and definitely recommend playing it.
They also had some like a overhead kind of party shooter game, kind of like a what's that game called? Hotline Miami Hotline, or whatever it's called. It's kind of like an overhead view, and it's kind of a shoot 'em up.
Like the old school
like
GTA,
a roguelike look. Yeah.
If you ever played like the True Lies or Smash TV,
I love
Smash
TV.
Okay, so it's that overhead view, and it was really fun, but I just couldn't find anyone to play. It's one of those games where it would be a lot better to play with someone.
What system did that come out on?
That was on PS4 because I wasn't sure what that was, and I bought it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And my kids are like, "Yeah, I don't know." But yeah, they've had. I mean, there's been a handful of video games for. I want to say like there's some we're not even mentioning, but honestly, that PS3 one, that's probably the best, like story wise.
Oh, for sure.
If you're just a huge fan of the original movies, yeah, like it's like you said, it's the missing third movie.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a movie, but it also is the type of game that feels like a movie. So that's the type of game I honestly usually don't truly care for. But this one has a good blend of you're controlling the action more than it's hard to explain, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Richie, you're being awfully quiet on this episode.
I'm just trying to rack my brain because I know I've seen a child playing Ghostbusters on the PS4, so I imagine it's just a remaster of the game you guys are referencing. I think
when they did it on the Switch, they also released it on the PS4.
Okay, but I was also thinking you guys are all like rainbows and sunshine up the Ghostbusters asses here, and I remember a time as a child when the second movie came out. And Richie refused to take a bath because he was worried he was going to get sucked down the drain or have ooze come out of the drain while taking a bath. And my mom or dad would have to be with me in the bathroom while the bathtub was being filled because I just knew that stupid slime was going to come up from the drain and take my soul.
Oh, I love it.
So I know that the second Ghostbusters movie has a lot of people who strongly dislike it. I had no idea that that's the reason why.
I enjoyed the movie. I as an adult, I enjoyed the movie. Clearly it had an impact on me as a child, but I liked the Ghostbusters franchise as a child. The thing I could never wrap my brain around was I always thought the movies were made off the cartoon as a kid because I was watching the real Ghostbusters all the time, dressing up in full Ghostbusters gear with a toy trap that I could step on as a kid. Like
I had the proton pack, and my friend had the trap, and it was super dope. We'd play Ghostbusters all the time.
Yeah. But like I thought the movie was based off that, and like it still hurts my brain. I'm like, no, the cartoon Richie had to come after the movie because the movie would have had to done well for them to even make a cartoon. But like I still confuse myself on it all the time as an adult.
So there's actually some. Oh, go ahead, Toby. You might be about to say the same thing I am, but please, you go first.
All I was going to say is the first movie came out, and then they made the cartoon. Which the fun fact on the cartoon is, it's the reason it's called the real Ghostbusters is because there was another cartoon like 5-10 years before called Ghostbusters. So that's why they are the real Ghostbusters. And then a year or so later, that's when they came out with the second movie. So first movie, real Ghostbusters cartoon, second movie.
And that is what I was going to talk about. The Ghostbusters cartoon that came before it had nothing to do with this franchise at all. It was like a group of it was almost like a Scooby-Doo knockoff, but instead of a dog, they had a monkey. And then
Slimer?
like, what's that?
So why wouldn't they use Slimer instead of a monkey?
Slimer didn't exist at that point. That's the whole thing. The cartoon did come first. And actually, whenever they wrote the Ghostbusters script, they were aware of that. Like they knew that was an issue, and they had to, deal with they had to pay a fee to use that name essentially for their movie. But then the original people went back and were like, but you can't use it for the cartoon show. And it was this whole thing. There's like lawsuits and all sorts of fun stuff. There's some great, if you're interested in that, like there's literally a dozen different people on YouTube who have covered it in depth. I've watched a few of them. And they're interesting. I'd recommend checking that out if it's something you'd like to learn more about. But for for our purposes, we'll just leave it at there was already a show in existence, and then they had to use the real Ghostbusters, and that's kind of the ultimate fuck you in a way, because they're like, okay, fine, you can have your name, we're the real Ghostbusters, and everybody knows it. And like, I guarantee you, there was some kids like at Christmas that got some like weird ass monkey doll for under the tree, and they're like, what the fuck is this, Mom? I wanted a proton pack.
I wanted the real Ghostbuster stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I guess that's how they got away with Extreme Ghostbusters, in the 90s, was because they tacked on that.
Of course, extreme. It was the 90s, because everything was extreme in the 90s.
I can't. So they actually had some episodes where there was a crossover. Now this is funny
with the Hardys and Lita, or
no. they
Is that wrestling?
That's good. I like that. They had the real Ghostbusters actually come in. Now, the whole show had, I believe it was Ray and Egon that were like teaching the new kids stuff, but they had, come in eventually. The Munchers that you see in the new movie were in the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's cool.
Dude, that Muncher was not fucking around in the new movie either. Like,
I like the use of Muncher, and I like the way that he was he helped them out at the end of the film too. That was great.
Yeah, but he was going for a kill shot for a little while there. Like, 12-year-olds have no freaking fear.
Well, and that's what they the Muncher and the Extreme Ghostbusters did there too, was eat metal and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. They called it something. Bullets. I don't know if it shot. I don't remember if it shot bullets, but I know that there was a Muncher and it ate metal, which is kind of sad because everyone wanted to see Slimer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody.
And you thought it was going to be Slimer there for a second.
I did. I mean, I legit thought, when I heard noises, I was like, "Oh, here comes Slimer."
Yeah, and even my kid was like, "Is that Slimer?" And I was like, "I don't think so, because he's grayish blue."
Wouldn't it narratively, like, the Slimer would still be back at the New York, maybe the old headquarters? That last credit scene where the thing is flashing. That's the system that Slimer's in, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
That would be the only reason they would keep him out of the movie, if there was a storytelling, argumentative side to why he wouldn't be around.
Yeah, because that they knew that they needed to save it to make it make sense, and I would respect the hell out of it if that is the reason.
Well, and Slimer only got any extra airtime in the second movie because of the cartoon. He was their like pet, like their friend. So that's the only reason that he made another appearance in the second one, was because of the cartoon. So, he's the reason that Toka and Razor were in the second Ninja Turtles movie. They were going to sell some toys. That's what it all comes down to.
Man, I had a Slimer toy that spit water, but I also couldn't wrap my head as a child around the fact that Slimer was a bad guy in the movies. Or not a bad guy, but like he wasn't on the side.
No, he wasn't their friend. Yeah. It was. I remember being confused by that too, actually.
But in the show, he's like friendly with them or goofing off with them.
And I do think I had the same experience, Richie, where I saw that cartoon before I saw that movie. So I was at an age where I didn't quite get the concept that people could use franchise or like properties in different ways. So yeah. I'm just like, why do you fuck up like the movie? Like, don't you even watch the show?
Oh, the Ninja Turtles playing instruments will be badass.
That was badass, sir. I wanted to go to that tour so hard.
Me too. That stupid VHS got worn out.
I would have flown to Buffalo for that one. That's a completely inside joke that was for nobody but Richie and Toby. I'm sorry.
Just like the city of Buffalo. All right.
So there's another medium that we have not covered that I'm hopeful that Toby is going to have some insight on, and if not, that's okay. But like any popular cartoon, there have been IDW comic books now of the Ghostbusters. They go on adventures. They have variations. How into the comics are you?
That's one of the things I never got into, because when I got back into comics, I was slowly finding like my pull lists and everything. By the time I got to where like I had gotten through all my superhero stuff, my Spider-Man, my X-Men, my Batman, whatever, and I was like, oh, what's that? Ninja Turtles had been rebooted, so I was like, okay, I can start with this. But Ghostbusters was already like ongoing, and I didn't want to jump into it.
That's always the hardest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have and just went back and got the issues, but at the time, like, it just seemed like more work than what it was worth. But they did a bunch of stuff. They did a big crossover. I believe they did a crossover with the Ninja Turtles at one point. They did a crossover with the Transformers also. There was a big story arc.
That's kind of wild. That'd be an interesting one.
I feel like all the movie properties that they had at the time did some kind of weird crossover. Trying to mimic like
event in the movies.
Trying to get that Marvel Cinematic Universe vibe going on, where everything's an advertisement for its next property or next movie. So yeah, the Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters is the one that I was excited to talk about. I recently learned that existed, actually, because I started reading The Last Ronin, which is a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic series. That's actually only got one issue left to come here, I believe, early 2022. But through reading those,
copy of issue 4 for Richie.
Didn't I already give you one?
Not for issue, not the 4th one. I thought you said you were getting.
We'll talk about it. I don't know if I have one for you or not, but regardless, I learned through like the advertisements in those that there is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters crossover, and I absolutely love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Batman crossover movie that they did, which was based on a comic series. So I'm very interested to check out the Ghostbusters Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. And think it's just kind of neat that, that could be a fun, I would love to see Egon and Donatello breaking down like Mutagen or something like that, that it could make for some really good content.
Sorry for throwing you off your game earlier.
You're fine. But honestly, that's all of like the existing properties that I have talked about. Is there anything that you feel like we've missed that you guys wanted to touch upon?
Actually, I went to a barcade 2 weekends ago, and they had the Ghostbusters arcade machine. Just don't play it.
I don't even think I've seen a Ghostbusters arcade machine before. What is that? Is that modern or old? Like,
it's
old. Give us the breakdown on that.
It's another one of those top-down shooters. It's not as good as like the one on PS4 I liked. That was fun. This one I did not like, but this one is also designed to just eat your fucking quarters.
I hate that.
There's a muncher inside the machine, and it just eats your quarters.
And he doesn't spit them back out.
They could easily make like a Sunset Riders, X-Men, Simpsons arcade style Ghostbusters game, and it would work so well. Like it's the formula's right there. Turtles and time the shit out of this. Come on.
I don't know, man. I hear you on that, but I think that they would have to do it in a way where it's not actually a beat 'em up, because the Ghostbusters don't beat things up. You'd have to do like a proton pack and like trap system.
Yeah.
I would love the concept if it like had to be multiplayer. So you would have to have like maybe two people on proton peak. One person's on trap and one person does whatever else. Yeah, drives the car.
You save that AB button combo for the boss where it drains your health a little bit, but gives you a quick little ultimate strike, but it's crossing the streams. It's works.
Crossing the streams. Yeah, I love that. I did like the crossing the streams moment in the movie actually as well for what it's worth. And we'll go ahead and wrap back around to the movie a little bit because I do want to talk about where we think the franchise might go, and I want to talk about those post-credit scenes just a little bit. There was two of them. One was just a funny moment between two old favorites, we'll say, in the mid-credit sequence, but it was the ending sequence that I found more interesting. At the end of Afterlife, we see that the Ecto-1 has been driven back to New York by Winston, one of the original Ghostbusters, who is now a very wealthy and successful businessman. And they actually bring the Ecto-1 back to the original firehouse that they had in New York. And we close with the old machine that would trap all the ghosts in their old headquarters, just like the light was just blinking, indicating that it was still working after all these years, but in almost like an ominous sort of way. First thing I want to say is during the middle of the movie, Dan Aykroyd very clearly said that their old station had been turned into a Starbucks. And I still say that is not how that would look, Richie was like, well, maybe it was a Starbucks, so they moved out. And I'm like, okay, but then it wouldn't look like an old firehouse. It would look like an old Starbucks at this point. Like Starbucks doesn't close down and just like remove all their shelving. Like there'd still be tables.
You made it sound like I wasn't joking around about it too. You made it sound like I was. Well, this is plausible. It totally makes sense.
No, dude, you had a chart, bro. You had a whiteboard. It had double sided. I was like, this doesn't make sense. You flipped it over, and you're like, well, now it does.
Starbucks storage room just kept it exactly that way.
Yeah, no, but it was a really good ending. Like the movie ended in a very fun and like a positive way that I was happy with. And a lot of times post credit sequences are disappointing. You feel like you had to pee really bad, and you just held it for no reason. But this was one of those cases where when you do see it, you're like, okay, that makes me like super excited for what's coming next in this franchise. We already touched on it a little bit. Where do you guys want to see this franchise go?
I mean, I want to see the torch pass again. I think they can finally officially pass the torch without having to need Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd. Like, I loved seeing my favorites, but I don't think it's
necessary. Can't rely on them every time, right?
I mean, I don't want to say it, but we all know it. Like, they're getting older. They don't look good.
but they use them well in Afterlife, and if you have to keep going back to that well, it's going to get cheap by the next movie. By the second movie, it will be cheap if they do it again. Like maybe a phone call to Bill Murray at one point, but even that I feel like would be a little cheap.
I could see like maybe Winston's involved as the money man or something, but like they are not suiting up any. There's no more of them in gear with proton packs fighting ghosts. It just can't be that way.
I think that would be the right call. You could, because I don't, from what everything it sounds like, Bill Murray's real like reluctant to be a part of the franchise still. So go ahead.
Have you seen Bill Murray? He looks like he's reluctant to stay alive at this point. He is looking like a very old man.
Excuse me, did you see him whoop some zombie ass in the credits of Zombieland 2? He's completely fine.
Dude, I was just like, so that scene I skipped over earlier, I'm gonna spoil anyway. It's Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, and like the entire time that scene's happening, I'm like, first of all, how is Sigourney Weaver still this hot? And second of all, how does Bill Murray look like a crazy old man? Like he looks like if you saw him on the streets, he would be gibbering or like something about like, you know, society's downfall.
They just
the end is near. The end is near.
Yeah, like it's so crazy how old he looks, but how good
Sigourney
she
Weaver's
looks.
Hot, dude. Yeah, I'll say
it. Well, okay, so like we could cut Bill Murray out of it completely. Dan Aykroyd, and have I can't think of his real name. Winston, whatever his real name is.
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. Gosh, I feel terrible. Have them in the next one. That way, they're doing the whole like, you know, we're teaching you the ways because we know we're not going to always be around kind of thing. And I'd be okay with that. And then by the third movie, you don't even have them in there. You just have the Ghostbusters, and it's a natural progression. It moves everything along. I think it would be a beautiful way to keep this franchise still going. My only question is they referenced the hell out of the first movie. They never once said, hey, remember when they made the statue walk?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. They kind of missed all the like what I wanted to say Ivan Ooze, but that's the bad guys from Power Rangers. Whoever like the dude that came out of the portrait was like the Conqueror dude who was like,
it's definitely Ivan Ooze.
Powered by everybody's evil, hateful thoughts.
I think it starts with a V. I can't think of what a
Victor maybe.
No,
Ivan works. It's fine.
Ivan, yeah.
That's you know what? We haven't got that crossover yet. Next, it's gonna be Ghostbusters and the Power Rangers teaming up. I'm for it.
I still would think it would be a cool idea to let some years go by, let the hype die down again,
Vigo the Carpathian,
and then let the kids be older and be doing the Ghostbuster things and just say like, hey, we've been doing this for years. Like they're already experienced after this whole thing. And that way, like my kids, you know, well, not 5 or 6 years, but you know, like if you wait long enough, their kids will be able to be like, hey, I watched this when I was a kid at the theater. Like it'll be something that just passes down and it's just really cool. And then from there, you can just always have new Ghostbusters coming into the story and training, because you need Ghostbusters from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, you do let yourself into. They're obviously going for like a Ghostbusters universe types of concept. I mean, even like the last several years, they've had their own studio, like Ghost Core or whatever it is that like pops up with those logos. Like that is like the dream model for any studio at this point. But while I don't want them to force that, this franchise really does lead a lot open for there to be spin-off stories and whatnot. Like, I mean, say Ghostbusters become a franchise in other towns, you know, like there's ghosts popping up in other places. Say the ghosts in New York escape and they go to like the Midwest or whatever. Like you got like.
See, I think they do that in the comics. I think there's a Ghostbusters International or something like that where they set up more. I didn't read the comics. I just kind of remember seeing the issues. I think that's a thing. Maybe it was just on one cover, and I'm thinking it was a whole series or something. Anyway,
didn't a lot of ghosts get released in Afterlife? I thought in one of the scenes there's a bunch of lights shooting out besides the big baddies and the dogs that we had in this movie. So you put the ghosts back into the world that were subdued. They
were being subdued by that pit thing. Which that was also really cool. Going back to that was just a cool that Egon had set that up or whatever. But I do like the idea. I do like the idea of making it so like the world needs Ghostbusters again. Like that would be cool. I think it would be very logical based on the way that this last one ended, that they do something where maybe that neighborhood is getting redeveloped. They're turning it into a Whole Foods. So they like bulldoze this old firehouse, thinking nothing of it, and they end up releasing like all the baddies back into the world. Because honestly, like I'm of two minds about this that I'm about to pitch, but this movie very much played into themes from the first movie in a very positive way. I don't know that I'm opposed to them trying to do the same thing with the second movie to some extent. Like, I think it would be cool if like we're on like a cycle, like Toby kind of mentioned, the like getting like a generational cycle going. Like, wouldn't Ivan Ooze be due to try to make another comeback? Do you think that dude gets defeated once and he's just done? Like, now he knows like what he's up against, so maybe he has a new plan for the Ghostbusters.
To be fair, I just read that the actor that played Vigo in Ghostbusters 2, I think was
Vigo.
50 in that movie. So I'm down to see like 90-year-old Vigo come out after the younger.
What if we get maybe he's a 21-year-old Adonis version of Vigo. He's no longer.
However he's painted is how he appears when he comes to life.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, we could be Hollywood writers, Miles. I mean, we could spit this stuff out left and right.
I mean, that wasn't Gozer, the original Gozer.
Yeah,
you know,
it looked very similar, so they did a good job.
Whoever that was did a phenomenal job, and I like the new costume update.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it wasn't a costume, more as CGI, but yeah. I like that.
The only thing I didn't understand about that was at the beginning, you had the ghosts try to come over the field of traps, and the trap failed. So you think they wouldn't fall for it again, but they fell for it again. But I also thought that Phoebe was going to have to go fix the traps like mid-fight while everyone else was keeping them at bay. And I was really upset that it was just like the kid from Stranger Things was like, I'm going to zap this and that's going to fix it. Because that was kind of a quick fix. But under time restraints and, peril of the world and whatnot, I guess you got to get a little lucky at times.
I thought it worked, and if he didn't do that, then he literally didn't do anything useful the entire movie.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess he fixed the car, but that ended up.
He knew where the ghosts were coming from.
Too. Yeah.
Oh, real quick, I got two things real quick to throw in there. I love that they didn't show the Ecto-1, like his phone dies, the battery dies on the light. So you think you're about to get the reveal of the car, and then his phone dies.
Yeah.
That was great.
And you just barely peek behind the curtain for a second.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, and it dies, and you don't see it yet. Anyways, the other thing I was so concerned with was I thought he was going to be the main star because he's so popular with Stranger Things and it and whatever else he's been in the last 2-3 years. I'm so glad that he kind of was a backseat character, more or less. Like he didn't have the focus on him like the girl, whatever.
Phoebe did,
Yeah.
I
was a very solid choice for the main person.
We haven't talked about her at all, really, and that's admittedly because she was kind of middle of the pack by comparison to like Phoebe and Finn, who we just talked about. But Carrie Coon is the name of the actress that played Callie. That's the mom, and she also I thought was a very like she gave very believable like single mom, kind of tired from like all the bullshit of life energy. Like I thought she did well.
I see that was the like I've said stuff that like was weird and a little off for me in the movie, but like I still enjoyed the movie overall. The parts that were weird to me were the interactions between her and Paul Rudd. Like I honestly, because I felt almost like he was creeping on a drunk like throughout the movie. And like the first scene where he's with Phoebe and talking about all the seismic activity and they're nerding out together, I'm like, okay, there's their connection. They can build on that like as the movie goes on. And they kind of just throw that out. There's one moment where he's like, your daughter's actually like, I really like her. She's really, really smart. But like she was clearly a drunk and he only saw that at certain parts. But it felt like he was, I don't know, it just felt kind of wrong when he was hitting on her when you knew she was going through all this stuff. And like, I just, it's coming from a household where I had a single mom doing a lot of the raising of me. She would never speak so illy of other people in front of me the way that mom did, which I get was the character. And that still means she did a good job. But something just felt off about the adults to me in the movie a little bit. I don't know.
You know, my only weird thing about it is like the way the kids, both of them, talk to the mom character. It's very Bob's Burgers like. You know how the kids in Bob's Burgers, they're kind of disrespectful, but it's always like in a funny, humorous way. I feel like a lot of parents would slap their kids for talking to them like that. Like just the little witty like jokes that they make and stuff. It felt really Bob's Burger-esque. And
Interesting.
I mean, I liked it. I didn't hate it, but it seems like that's kind of the main trope that like the family kind of trope now is like the kids are so fucking witty to their parents and the parents are just like, meh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we bond, is we treat each other like equals.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I did, like I said, I didn't hate it. I feel like so many shows do that now. They have that vibe.
That's fair. I don't think she did a bad job. Actually, weirdly enough, Richie and I talked briefly about this too, but I like his name's Finn Wolfhard. He's the kid from Stranger Things. I like him a lot from most things I see him in. I thought, if anything, he had the weakest performance in this movie compared to the other main characters.
Yeah, he was kind of annoying at parts in this movie, which he was supposed to be, but like the acting wise, I felt was just, I don't know. Oh, you use the same tone for a similar one-liner through like the first 2/3 of the movie. Like, do something else, please.
Again, I laughed a lot more at Phoebe's jokes than I did at any of his.
Okay, you're going to fix this car that magically has gas the entire movie.
Dude, the gas should have been bad. The battery should have been bad. There's a lot wrong with the car scene, too. But, I mean, Ghost exists, so I think I can get over it.
Yeah, exactly. You left it filled up for you after it got all the way to Oklahoma.
Yeah, Muncher just went and filled it up before he got back to the shed. Guys, I think we've covered just about everything we need to on Ghostbusters as a whole. Is there anything else that either of you guys wanted to say before we wrap this thing up?
You didn't let me say where I thought the franchise could go.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're correct. I apologize.
I know this is the Toby and Miles show from now on. I'll occasionally be invited on to do a Bob's Burger show so that Miles can actually have somebody else than him talk about it, since Toby clearly likes the show.
You're getting downgraded from the starring role to now at the end of the credits it'll just say with the Whiz Kid.
I mean, the credit scenes show that it's got to go to New York now, and they're going to want to keep the same cast there because that's how franchises work. This isn't going to be a multiversal thing. It's going to be how do we get the main actors from Oklahoma to New York, which you're kind of already set up from it. There's nothing left in Oklahoma for these people. Like, they found out the mystery of the grandfather and everything that he was and everything that he meant, and they don't really have a home, so they can easily pack up and go. And with the money man behind the wheel, it's like, oh, come to New York. I've got an apartment you can stay at.
Yeah, 100%.
They're all there.
They're funded now.
Yeah, exactly. And then there'll be some new Ghostbusters logo with like a kid ghost doing the do sign on there. It's going to really throw people in a weird direction.
He's gonna have a backwards hat and a yo-yo and
and a slingshot in his back pocket and a skateboard.
Eventually, he'll fly to his home planet and be gone for good. But
and they'll have a pet dog in the next one for some reason. I'm calling it right now.
I definitely think going back to the New York seems plausible, and you're right. There's really nothing else that they could possibly do in small town wherever.
Oh, look, and the fourth member's dad just got a transfer with a job in New York, so that he can take his family there as well.
Paul Rudd, he has some science experiment that hires him to do science stuff.
Well, ghosts are back, and he's got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, he's got the knowledge. That's right. Yeah. Homegirl's cop dad is going to get a promotion to like the FBI or wherever cops from New York do. Like,
Yeah, it literally writes itself.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
We don't need plausibility. Just go.
All right, Richie, now I believe we've covered everything that we could possibly cover on the Ghostbusters. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about on this franchise?
Despite my typical fashion to bring the room down with all the negativity things and the things that I said, I still want to stress that I very much enjoyed this movie. I thought it was fun. It's what a movie is supposed to be about. You didn't really care about the stuff that didn't make sense because you were just having fun watching it, and that's
so you're pro fan service, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm pro fan service. I mean, I am a literal fan, so by the fact that I am serviced, that makes me happy. So people that aren't like that are just weird internet trolls that need their internet trolling ways. So if you want to be an internet troll, whatever, have fun. But other than that, Ghostbusters, good fun. As a whole franchise, I guess I can't really speak on it because I haven't done anything except play a few hours of the game with you on the system that we will not speak of again when you first got the game.
The Wii was a great system. It was just that game was a terrible game.
Yeah.
The Wii was a great system with a few great games and a lot of terrible games.
Yes.
I think I had a Ghostbusters puzzle when I was a kid. We didn't talk about that. So that was always fun. Thank you, puzzle. Thank you, kid Ghostbusters outfit. Thank you, Ghost Trap. For all the fun times that I really don't remember that well from 30 years ago.
Right on. Very cool. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Everything.
What about Toby? You didn't get
I'm literally about to plug his shit right now. Chill out, dude.
No. I'm talking about final thoughts. You didn't let him get any final thoughts in.
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. He gave final thoughts. Toby, do you have now? I feel like did I not give you enough opportunity to speak?
Well, actually, Miles, I had about 20 more things I wanted to talk about.
But let's go.
No. It's whatever.
Would you like to go in least important or most important first?
Well, I'm going to do it from both directions, so this is going to double the conversation.
Now that's how you serve as a fan, sir.
That's right. That's right. No, nothing more to add. I mean, I'm glad that we got this sequel, the deserved sequel to the actual franchise. I mean,
washes the taste of 2016 out of your mouth is, I think, a great reason to love this movie.
Yeah.
There was the first 15-20 minutes where I was wondering if they were going to acknowledge that movie, and then I thought as the movie kept going on, it's almost better if they don't acknowledge that movie at all, which I don't. Unless I missed something, I don't think they did.
I don't think they acknowledged it all, and I think that was the right choice.
Yeah. What if? Hold on, this just came to me. What if that's a movie inside the universe?
No, I just realized this is my pitch. Finn's character, the older brother. This movie starts with him coming down off of an acid trip, which that was just all happening in his head on the next film. That's how we're gonna start.
Or those Ghostbusters all die at the beginning of the next movie, and that's why everyone has to go to New York to replace them.
All right, guys. Now we're getting into conspiracy theory territory, which is perfect because you can follow Toby's conspiracy theory podcast along with his video game podcast. You can get that all at Bad Secret Media. Toby, do you want to plug your shows real quick?
If you like the Ghostbusters and you've listened this far, go listen to our Sega Genesis review on Secret Levels podcast. It's a pretty fun episode, pretty fun game. badsecretmedia.com. I've got Secret Levels. It's the retro video game review show, and then Secret Transmission, which is the conspiracy, cryptozoology, serial killer but we have a satire outlook on it. So a bunch of old episodes of there, and then the Derailers are also on there, which is my buddy's podcast. So all the links are at Bad Secret Media. So check it out. Do some stuff.
What rating did you guys give that game?
I believe it was pretty high up there. I mean, it was definitely 7 or up.
Oh no!
Remember.
I was trying to trick you into giving away the ending of the podcast.
Well, I don't remember it. I know it was a higher rating than we expected, to be honest. So that's I know it was.
That sounds higher based on my knowledge of like the NES version. It must be much better.
Listen, if we didn't review that one yet, we will in the future, I'm sure. But I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna be pretty low rating. Pretty low.
I don't doubt it. Richie, where can they follow all of our bullshit?
You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off all over social media. You can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23. But most importantly than every other spot that we've all three mentioned tonight, especially Toby's junk, you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's
nothing is more important than Toby's junk, sir. That's
no.
Toby invites other people to his junk and then doesn't allow them access to his junk whenever he was supposed to. He puts on a show for everybody except the people that were invited.
I feel like I missed a reference.
Sonic 3.
There you go. Okay. All right.
I was taking it back to our last time he was on the show.
This train wreck is officially off the rails. Another shout out to the Derailers right there. But we appreciate you, Toby, so much. Thank you as always, and we can't wait to have you back on again for either a Simpsons review or another Best Darn Everything. In the meantime, Richie and I will be back again with you next week, and we are going to be reviewing the episode The Computer War Menace Shoes.
And stay tuned in the future where Toby takes over my gig.
And until next time, starring Miles, Mr. Most Days Off Francis, Toby Von Doom with The Whiz Kid.
There's my train ride out of here.